Divine Plot Twist episode, where we dive into the tales of faith and spirituality, and we do our best to free up your mind from the chains of religion. I'm your residential scholar from the University of Hard Knocks, and today we are reacting to Go with Jordan video about there are no contradictions in the Bible. So let's hear what Mr. Jordan has to say.
There are no contradictions in the Bible. The so-called contradictions are just passages that have not been thoroughly studied. For example, the Gospel of Mark says Jesus was crucified at the third hour. Then in John it seems to indicate that Jesus was crucified around the sixth hour. Seems like a contradiction, right? Mark was using the Jewish time system, which starts the day at 6 a.m., so the third hour would be 9 a.m.
Objection: lack of evidence. So, what he's saying is that the Jewish day begins at 6 a.m. Well, everybody and your brother and sisters and cousins know that the Jewish day begins at sunset. In Jewish tradition, a new day begins at sunset, not at midnight or 6 a.m. This practice is based on the creation narrative in the book of Genesis, where it states, "And there was evening and there was morning, one day." Go check your bestseller, Genesis 1:5. Therefore, according to Genesis, the Jewish calendar day runs from sunset to sunset. So he's already fumbling in this game, or otherwise, he's omitting to say this just because he wants to fit the narrative that the Bible has no contradiction. Now, this time in effect affects, and when I say this effect or affects, what I'm referring to is sunset to sunset, because the observance of Jewish holidays and the weekly Sabbath or Shabbat all begin at sunset on the evening before the specified date and ends at nightfall the following day. For instance, every Sabbath starts on Friday evening at sunset and concludes on Saturday evening after nightfall. This dude has no evidence to support that the Jewish community begins their day at 6 a.m. Even Ben Shapiro will refute this. He'll be like, no, our day begins at sunset. But let's give the man a chance.
John was using the Roman system, which starts the day at 12 a.m., so the sixth hour would be 6 a.m. But you say there's still a 3-hour difference. John only gives the time of the trial of Jesus, not the actual crucifixion. So the
Okay. Again, objection, Your Honor. This guy cannot keep his facts straight. Lack of evidence. There's no evidence presented with his argument about time. And I don't know whether he's doing it willingly or he's misleading people. I'm lacking the word for right now. But during the time of Jesus, the Roman day was traditionally reckoned from midnight to midnight. However, the Romans also used a civil day that began at sunrise around 6 a.m., which was divided into 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of nighttime. And this system of counting hours was influenced by practical consideration of daily life, with the first hour beginning at sunrise and the 12th hour ending at sunset. Now, in this context that he's talking about Jesus' crucifixion, uh, he's trying to argue that there is no contradiction. But the gospel accounts reflect this division of the day, right? Which, if you're reading it, read them parallel. And I'll point out to that later once he's done here. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's let him finish.
time of the trial could very well be at 6 a.m. and then the crucifixion at 9 a.m. There are no
Okay, so he tried to spin it at the time of the trial would have been at 6 a.m. and the crucifixion at 9 a.m. Mr. Jordan. I hope that's your name because your channel is Go with Jordan. Let's go to the book of Mark, chapter 15, verses 25. So, this is what he's referring to when Mark says that it was the third hour, right? Mark says, now it was the third hour and they crucified him. Okay, that's straightforward what time they crucified him. But what he's trying to argue that that hour does not equal to what John is referring to. And just to a little extrapolate on this a little bit, yeah? The daytime canonical hours of the Catholic Church, which I'm referring to the Catholic Church because they gave us the whole Bible. They took their name from the Roman Catholic, not from the Roman clock. And the Roman clock went something like this: the prime, the tasi, the sect, and the none, which they reference to, like for instance, the first primer equals 6 a.m. Third, tatia equals to 9 a.m. And then secta equals to 12 p.m. and nonna equals to 3 p.m. Those are the hours of the day that those reference to. And you can look this up. The English term noon was derived from the ninth hour, which is 3 p.m. But I don't know why we say noon at 12. But anyway, that's a little history on this timing out here he's talking about. Now, my question is this: why would God use different times to let his scribes fill people with doubt? You're asking what doubts? Okay. Mark 15:25. Now it was the third hour and they crucified him. And then the other one he referenced was John 19, verses 14. He says that John was about the trial of Jesus and not necessarily the crucifixion. But he's leaving out more information, so let's read it. Now it was the preparation day of the Passover, and about the sixth hour, and he said to the Jews, behold your king. But they cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate said to them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. Then he delivered him to be crucified. So they took Jesus and led him away. Now, if you read this, it's telling you at the sixth hour, this happened. Pilate asked the people, why do you want me to crucify your king? The people say we have no king but Caesar. And he was like, all right, go crucify him. At the sixth hour. There was no trial right here. What trial? Even if you read about up from the beginning, right? It's Jesus and Pilate having a conversation or whatever. And then at the sixth hour, Pilate was like, man, I lack evidence to crucify this man. He takes him out and said, hey, yo, here's your king. They say, we don't have no king. He said, what do you want me to do with him? Crucify him. So they went ahead and crucified him. But Mr. Jordan here, he's purposely leaving this out just to fit his agenda. And one thing I keep asking people, why is it that you have to sit and defend God? Do you think he needs your defense? This is his word that cannot be erased or added to, according to Deuteronomy. So we have to take this at face value. And this is not an allegory. Christians believe that this actually happened. And this man is trying to tell us, play with our mind, that when one person says this happened at 9 a.m., that it meant, oh, they were using different times. Why would John use the Roman calendar and Matthew use the Jewish calendar? Aren't they all from the same place? That's like being in America and you use the metric set and also use the American Standard Set, SAE. Either way, if you reference them, the tools will match. Okay? You get a quarter inch, it will match the metric set of that. So this guy is trying to play mind games here and to tell us that what happened according to these gospels match, and they don't. He's living out. This happened at the. I'm starting to ramble, and I do not want to ramble. I want to be objective here. So I'm gonna let you go read those verses on yourself, by yourself, and come up to their own conclusion, whether they contradict each other or maybe they don't. However you see fit, it's all your conclusion at the end of the day, after everything. It's your own life. You can choose to believe what you want to believe. I can believe today the sky is red and nobody can tell me otherwise. But facts don't change. And with that, peace. I'm out, y'all.